Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John and this video is going to be my top 10 cinema experiences. So these movies are very nostalgic to me. I can remember a lot about the cinema experience when I went to see them, probably more than any of the movies at that time. I know I saw a lot more movies that aren't on this list. So these 10 movies here are definitely the films that I remember most in the cinema. So at number 10 is 1978's Dawn of the Dead. Now I didn't see this in 1978, I would only been about 9 at that point. But what I did was, with my friends from school around about 1981, 1982, we used to go to the cinema all the time at the Whitley Bay Playhouse, which is just down the street from me. It's still there, but it's not a cinema anymore. It does like shows and that. So we went every Monday. We would go down to the cinema, and probably on the Monday we would go and see anything at the cinema. It doesn't matter what it was, we would go. And usually it was some kind of really weird horror film on release, either on release or on re-release. So we went down there, and there was a group who went. There's always a group went on the Monday night because it was a cheap night out, and we just had an immense time with this because this movie was so bloodthirsty. We had never seen anything like this before. The gore in here was next level. We were shouting at the screens, you know, like really getting into it, and it was just, we were clapping and screaming. It was brilliant because it was a gore that got us. It was because and then obviously when we come out of it, we're talking about the fact it was like filmed in a shopping mall, and we were thinking, imagine what it would be like at the local shopping mall, which was up the road from us, which was called Eldon Square, which is still there. So after we had seen this movie, when we used to talk about it, we used to always go on about the fact of, imagine being locked in a mall and you could do anything you wanted in there. You could buy anything, well, you could not buy, you could take anything you wanted, and you could shop and you could take everything that you wanted, and it was just there for the pickings. That was one of the best things about this, and this really connected with me at that young age. And the fact it was like gore heavy, which we'd never seen before, we'd never seen blood like it, we'd never been in a place where we thought, this is people's heads exploding, what's all that about, people taking chunks out of each other. We'd just never seen that thing before because we were used to watching Hammer horror films, and they were really gory, but they weren't that type of gory. This was a gore that we had never seen before. So this movie for me started the ball rolling when we went to the cinema to see some next level gore movies. That's at number 10, that's Dawn of the Dead. So coming in at number 9 is 1981's Escape from New York. Now, back in the day, you had no spoilers. You had no real advertising for movies. Not what we could see as young people. We just went on a Monday night and we saw what was playing. So we thought, right, Escape from New York, we will watch this and see what happens. We didn't know anything about the fact it was directed by John Carpenter. You didn't even look at the directors. You just looked at it and the cover or the poster, and you would say, that looks all right. So for me at this time, the Monday movie was just whatever it was. And unless it was something like a kid's movie or something that didn't appeal, it was like a musical or something at that point, we wouldn't bother. But movies like this, just we thought, right, we'll go and see it. And we had just an absolute blast with this movie. We have never seen a character like Snake Plissken before, for instance. It's one of those movies where you just think, wow, where's this going to go? I've never seen the premise of it was really brand new to us. It's got an amazing premise. I don't think I need to explain most of these movies to what they are. They are all, in my estimation, classics, and you would know of them all. It's not as if I'm going to pull one out and go, oh, I've never heard of that one before. So anyway, we went and just put ourselves down and just looked at this movie and just thought, wow, we're kind of entranced actually. It's got such a good look. The music as well. I mean, everybody who knows this movie, how good it is. It was just like an adventure romp action with some sort of cool acting in it and just really good, like it's not so much brutal. It was just a really good take on a movie that we'd never seen before, and we just really connected with us. And what we did was, and on the Monday you can go and see it for cheap. I think it was about 50p, and the rest of the week you had to pay full price. Now, if a movie was really good on the Monday, you would go back on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for it. Try and get the full weekend, because don't forget, once this has gone from that cinema, you couldn't see it again until it was on TV 4 years later. Now, I know videotapes came in, but they didn't come in until a couple of years after these movies were out. So the only way we could see them, if we really liked it, was to go back and see them again and again and again at the cinema. So that was an expensive week for us. I mean, it was only about £2, but still, it was all your pocket money was spent at the cinema if you saw a movie like this. So I remember this movie here was one that we went to see quite a few times in that week. I don't think we did the full week, although some of these movies I did do the full week. But this one wasn't a full weeker, but it was nearly a full weeker. And as everybody knows, this is a stone cold classic. And these ones, I'm so pleased that I watched them on release, To be honest, I wish I took a little bit more notice of them, because when you're with your mates, you're sort of laughing and carrying on and that. And if I'd been as much, but some of the movies, some of the times I went by myself, like, because just on the bottom of the street, like at the end of the week, and I would take more notice of them and sort of get enveloped in the movie. But I think it's when you're 12 and 13, you don't really think about them things. I would love to go back in a time machine and have that experience again, but I'm glad that I had these on first release. So at number 9, that's Escape from New York. So speaking of unforgettable experiences, at number 8 is 1977's Star Wars. Now, the hype on this one, now I was saying with some of these movies you didn't know they were coming out. Well, obviously in the kids' comics I used to get at the time, this was all over the place, so you knew this was coming out. I would imagine this movie came out in America first, so we were kind of seeing news reports about the fact of these cinemas having people lined up for blocks and blocks and blocks to see this movie. So of course our interest was piqued at this point. I remember going to see this with, I think it was probably with family. I don't think I went to see this with my friends at that time, because in 1977 I would have been sort of 9, 10. But the hype was real, because we went to see a movie that we'd been hyped for, and with the toys were coming out, the bubblegum cards were coming out. There was a lot of stuff to be had before you even went to see this movie, so you kind of knew about a few of these characters, C-3PO, Darth Vader. You knew there was sort of what they were about, and you saw a lot of teaser trailers. So this one was a real hype fest, and the fact that you saw this movie, and I don't think at that point you thought this is going to live up to it, but it certainly did. I think I saw this twice on release, and the cinema was absolutely jam-packed. I remember the first time I went to go and see it, you were lucky to get in. I'm sure they were turning people away, like after us. I just got that memory. And we were lucky to see this at the Cannon Cinema, which is up the road. Well, it used to be, but it's not anymore. It's been knocked down. And it was just great. The Cannon Cinema itself was tiny, I remember, and it was one of those ones, if someone sat in front of you, you would get blocked out by hats and things, because it wasn't on a slant like it is now. But that wouldn't have taken my enjoyment was, I remember purely this enjoyment. It's when you see a movie that's ultra hyped and it actually lives up to it, and you come away and you can't wait to see it again, and you can't wait to get more toys. Because after this one, all right, you saw it twice in the cinema, and you might have saw it in a bit in a re-release as well. But what you could do after this was you can buy comics, you could buy memorabilia, you could buy little statues, you could buy little toys, anything. So there was a lot of stuff to be had to keep you going on Star Wars till the next movie came out, which is unlike most of these ones here. But such a good experience to have this. And if you think, I wonder what it was like to see Star Wars when it came out. Well, the sort of hype and everything was immense. It's nowhere near like that now. It should be kind of up there with one of these like events, but it's not an event anymore. Unfortunately, Star Wars at the cinema is kind of, they just put them out and they're a bit oversaturated at the minute. But anyway, I'm really pleased that I had this original, the Star Wars, like the hype, the buzz when it came out in 1977. So at number 8, that's Star Wars. So from here on in, all these movies are sensational. I had such an amazing time. I mean, I did with the other ones, but these are the ones that it was hard to separate them. Actually, I could even put them all at number 1, because I've had just the most amazing times with them, and that this remained firm favourites for me, and they would be in my top 10 list of most things. So number 7 is 1980's The Elephant Man. Now, when I first went to see The Elephant Man, I didn't know anything about it. Just saw a billboard that was on the side of a bus. And to be honest, at this young age in 1980, I wasn't very old, and I just thought, is this like a superhero? I didn't understand at all what this was about. Now, when I went to see, I remember saying to my parents and my sort of grandparents to say, oh, I want to go and see The Elephant Man. And they said to us, don't go and see it, it's too sad. It would be a horrible experience. And I thought, well, that made me even more interested, because I thought, well, I didn't have the savvy to think that this was going to be like an emotional movie. I didn't really know about emotional movies. So I thought, well, I've just got to see it. I want to see it anyway because of one of the most intriguing titles you could ever hear, The Elephant Man. You know, it's just an amazing title. And also is the fact that you just didn't know anything about it. And this poster here didn't really give anything away, but it made you think, what am I going to see in this movie? So when I went to go and see it at first with my friends, we went there, and to be honest, I was quite scared when I went to see it. It's black and white. I didn't expect it to be black and white. I thought, what's the matter with this? And then as well, it starts off a little bit like a horror movie. It's the David Lynch, who's got like David Lynch isms at the start of the movie and in the middle and the end. And the start of it, I thought, oh, I don't know if I like this one. I don't know if this is going to be like a scary movie. I didn't expect it to be a horror film, which it isn't. But then when it gets into the movie and it gets to be what it was, I must admit, when I first went I watched this for the full week. When I first went with my friends, I did we were kind of not understanding the sort of depth of this movie. We were thinking, we didn't even know it was a true story at all, if I'm honest. I didn't know that till after the event. But I do know I watched something special. Now, what I felt of was, I think we didn't take this movie seriously at all. I think when it was sort of like getting into the sort of sad parts of it, we were trying to laugh it off. And when it was getting to you, you were going, this is just daft. You were probably doing that to hide the fact that you were nearly ready to go. So no one wanted to cry. And if you were in a group of kids from school, if you cried, that would be the end of your life, because that would be your nickname forever, the man who cried at the Elephant Man. So you didn't go there. So anyway, as the week went on, I sort of went with a couple of people, and by the end of, I think the last 2 times I went by myself, because I just had to see this movie for the full 5 times. And it was just absolutely amazing. It was amazing because of the whole fact that this movie is amazing. And I got it. By the end of the week, I totally got what this movie was about. And I don't know when I realised that I was told it was a true story, but I found out and it became one of my favourite movies of all time. It was the first movie I ever bought in a VHS and on sell-through. So yes, had so many good memories of this. I would love to think that I could have been sophisticated enough to treat this movie seriously on the first watch with my friends. But when you're with your friends, you have a different sort of mindset. You don't want to sort of be that one that takes things like emotionally. But anyway, just can't I just love this movie, and I was so glad I went to see it. And it's one of those movies that when you get in there, and like some of these ones are, you don't have a clue what's going on. And it's a shame now these days when every movie is spoiled. You go online and you know every single thing about it. The first thing you see, and somebody putting a spoiler up to say, oh, guess what, they all get killed at the end. You think, brilliant. So you've got to try and avoid social media. Now, back in the day, you were trying to see, even looking in the newspapers to see if you get any ideas about these movies. No one was talking about them. It was quite strange. So every movie was like a fresh experience. And to be honest, when I went to see most of these movies, I didn't have a clue what they were about, which is great. I would love to get those experiences back again. So anyway, at number 7, that's The Elephant Man, 1982's The Thing. Now, can you imagine going to see this movie, not knowing anything about it? And to be honest, when we saw the poster for it, it wasn't this poster, but it just had The Thing on it. We said, that is the worst title I have ever heard for a horror movie, if it is a horror movie. Didn't even know it was a horror movie. And I'd said to me pals, I'd said, that's going to be a load of rubbish, I can tell you off the bat. If they can't think of a better title than that, it's got to be rubbish. I didn't know anything about it being a remake or anything like that. Didn't know about John Carpenter again, even though I had seen a few of his movies, but never put 2 and 2 together. When I think about it, I've saw most of John Carpenter's great movies in the cinema, and what an experience that is. I just wish I'd known more about this at the time, so I could have kind of drank it in a bit more instead of just going, oh, that was brilliant. But when we went in, we sat there thinking, yeah, it is what it is. And it starts off a little bit slow, not too slow these days for us as like adults, but when you're a kid, you think, is anything going to happen here? And of course, when everything kicks in and goes into like overdrive, the special effects in here, we could not believe what we were seeing. To see those type of practical effects after not seeing anything like that at all, I think the most thing you would see like that is like Dracula turning into dust and things like this. It's just something that you just think, I don't know what, like, all right, we had Dawn of the Dead where people are getting the head shot off and all that, but this is talking about people like things changing into other things in front of your very eyes. Yes, when you look at it back now, you can see sort of like a bit of how it's done, but at the time this was groundbreaking. Even now when you watch it, the effects are brilliant and they're so well done, and you just couldn't believe what you were seeing in this movie. So you had to go back the next day. I think we've been back for most of the week because we couldn't believe we had to say, we've got to see this again just to watch these special effects. And you were telling your mates, you've got to come with us to see what this, because things are happening that you've never seen before in your life. So that's such an experience to have as you're watching something literally for the first time. This, you could say, The Thing, this type of thing is the first time ever this type of thing was happening, and you were just dumbfounded, because it was like, I mean, I had seen the one that was a little bit like it, but this was just like relentless. There was so many transformations in here, and the next one was better than the one before. So it was just one of those ones where you thought, this is what's to come next. And this, maybe at this point, maybe when videos came out, I started to get more into videos. I started more think about directors and think, oh, hang on a minute, he's the same bloke who done Halloween and Escape from New York. You never put two and two together when you were a youngster. But anyway, so wow, there's the special effects that blew, as you would imagine, the special effects blew our minds, and we had to go back time and time again to think, did we actually see what we were seeing? So as a first-time experience of special effects like that, this was unreal. So at number 6, that's The Thing. At number 5 is 1980's Death Ship. Now it's funny because you might say, well, hang on, The Thing with all this stuff going on, and you put Death Ship in front of it. I can only go off what actually experiences I had at the cinema. For some reason, this movie really connected with me. I think it's to do with the fact of the ship. I just love movies with ships, especially ghost ships. I can't get enough of them. This movie is another one. I think it was a TV movie, and it was just put out as released in the UK. And it's not that there's not that much happening. It's not like shocking or gory or anything like that. It's just atmospheric. It just really connected with me. And I think I went with my friends on the Monday, and I'd said to them, "Are you going back to see Death Ship?" And they said, "No, didn't rate it. Just rubbish. Not too much going and not too much, like stuff in it. It's just, a bit of what it is." So I went the rest of the week by myself because I just couldn't get enough of this movie. It was it just for some reason, like I say, it just really connected with me, and I had a great experience with this. I couldn't wait to see it the next day. And like I say, I went 4 times by myself. That shows you how much I liked it. But I just knew, in a way, that once this movie was gone, it would be one of those movies you would never see again for a long time. I mean, obviously I got it on VHS, but even then it was one of the ones it's not an easy one to sort of come across. And even on Blu-ray, it took a time to come out in the UK in Blu-ray. But this Blu-ray here looks absolutely amazing, and I can get a blast out of this movie. It's not the goriest movie. It's not the most shocking movie. It's not the most frightening movie. But for some reason, this movie just really, really connects with me. That's why I put it higher on the list than a lot of ones you would think, this should be number 10. But my personal opinion of this is it's just such a great blast. You would never ever say, like, oh, it might come out in the cinema again and never get released in the cinema again. I'm surprised it even got released on Blu-ray in the UK. But I had such a great time with it. So at number 5, that's Death Ship. And at number 4 is 1980's The Fog. Now, this one instantly connected with me, and my friends who I went with as well, they loved it as well. So we stayed in for the full week on this one, and most of it got through the full week. And I don't know what it is about this movie. Like I say, it's not the most scariest movie I've seen. It's not the most bloodthirsty movie I've seen, but I just really liked it. Again, it's got something to do with ships as well, and like seaside town and that. Just the whole atmosphere of this movie, the music. Didn't know this was directed by John Carpenter again. I just saw The Fog. I'll have to go and see that. That's a great title. This for me just ticks all the boxes. It's like a great story, spooky atmosphere, great setting, great acting, great stars, and just I can't say anything more than that. I personally think this is absolutely like a perfect movie, and it's got a brilliant 4K as well. So I knew this is. When these movies come out, there's a good resolution of this movie, and you can see it like the director intended. I always go for them because I want to have that experience of having it like pristine, as if like it was like released now. I was going to go and see it, like I'm watching it at the cinema again. And all these titles here, when I watched them, I'm transported to the Whitley Bay Playhouse on a Monday. The majority of them I saw there, and it's just the nostalgia level is just like through the roof. They're all blind buys, for want of a better word. People say, why'd you blind buy something? Because, well, I hope it's going to be a good movie. That was the same in these movies. You would just go to the cinema and you would say, well, I hope this is going to be good. Things like The Thing, I thought was going to be a load of rubbish, but I thought I'd just try it. It's got it's a horror film, I think, so why not? And that's sometimes in these days, that's your sort of way of your blind buy. Just go and just say, this looks like it could be all right, and you may get one that's like absolutely horrendous, or you may get one that's like absolutely brilliant, which you hope's going to be brilliant, and it turns out to be brilliant. So that's kind of reinforces the sort of the chance of a blind buy being like something good that you might want to investigate in, and it may be coming from the fact that you used to do this with your sort of cinematic experiences. You didn't know anything about this. To be honest, I can't remember seeing the trailers for any of these movies on other movies. So when I go in, we don't even know what's going to happen in this movie. So that's one of the best things. No spoiler alerts, no nothing. So this is why these movies will have a special place in my heart, because they were never spoiled for me, and I never had that experience of thinking, oh, I can't wait to go and see Spider-Man, whatever. And somebody says, oh, did you know da da da? And you go, I can't believe it. I'm not going to get that experience of the kind of the first fright or the first shock, the first wow factor in all of these movies, which you got back in the day all the time. You would never get nothing spoiled for you. Even in the schoolyard, you never get anybody talking about these movies. And when we came out the movie thing, we used to say, you got to go and see this because it's brilliant. But you wouldn't tell them what happened, because why would you? So number 4, that's The Fog. So number 3 is 1981's An American Werewolf in London. Yeah, this one, we had to go and see this movie because of the title. We just thought this looks amazing, and obviously the cover on the poster looked amazing as well. So we thought to ourselves, right, we're going to go and see this. Now I know that in 1981 I was about 13 or 14, and I thought, right, come hell or high water, we're going to see this one. What we did was we went on, it was definitely on a Saturday, because we went in the afternoon. We had to sit through Elton John live in Central Park twice to watch this movie. And we went in, and to be honest, I think it was only us and a couple of other people who were in the cinema for the full time. You know, it was just bizarre. And it's another one where you think, is this going to be all right? We didn't know anything about the transformation. Imagine not knowing anything about a werewolf transformation. The only one you'd seen was the 1941 Wolfman movie, and you just heard werewolves. So you thought, oh, this has probably got a transformation scene in. But when it kicks in, imagine how we felt seeing that for the first time. Now, what you could do back in the day was, if somebody says to you, you just stayed in. If you went early enough, you could stay in for the next showing. Nobody would question you. Would probably say, are you staying in for the next one? So yeah, I am. And that was it. You paid your money, and that was, there was nothing even, it wasn't even the thing that you had to get kicked out of the cinema for. That was the thing you did. That's strange, isn't it? These days, yeah, that would never happen. But obviously, movie Stone Cold classic. The transformation scene blew our minds. I just watched it twice on the same day, so this is the first time I ever watched an X-rated cinema like experience. So yeah, I'd seen werewolf transformation scenes before in other Universal movies, but we were not prepared for what happened in here. And the gore, and the fact that somebody was coming back as a corpse and sort of talking, and it just bits of flesh flapping on his face. We just couldn't believe what we're seeing. It was so funny as well. It just really connected with us. And it was one of those ones where you just think, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. And you were saying to your mates, you can't believe this person changes into a werewolf, and we were saying it's real. It's got to be real, because to us it looked real. And yeah, so to be honest, I mean, 1981, I don't think the werewolf effects have really been matched. All right, you might see, you know, how some of it is done, but the actual transformation scene still stands a test of time to be one of the greatest sort of monster things that's ever happened in cinema history for me. So at number 3, that's An American Werewolf in London. So coming in at number 2 is 1975's Jaws. Now, as a kid, this movie, it was a PG at the time, can you believe it? So anybody would go and see it. Now I went to go and see this with me mum. I think I went to go and see it with her twice actually, maybe. But I definitely saw this 3 times at the cinema. I saw it at the Classic, the now defunct Classic. And we knew a bit about it. We knew it was going to be scary. We didn't know how scary this was going to be. Now, as you know, with the first 5 minutes of this movie, what you see there, we were thinking this is just a bit next level. I was thinking to me. And I remember my mum was petrified out of her skin. And also, all the adults in the audience at this point were kind of turning their head away. I mean, I was thinking to myself, this is like something I've never seen, with the attacks, the shock attack, it was so real. It was probably one of the realest things I'd ever seen in my life. It wasn't like, it didn't even look like a film to me. It looked more like a documentary, because I thought, is that real? And you could see this, the actual parents in the audience were sort of turning away, as if they say, they were thinking, if they're scared out of their minds, how is this going to affect me? And this is in the first 5 minutes. So you had a really big fear of dread when you were going through this movie. And I'll tell you what, I was really scared at this time. And it is true, you would be scared to go back in the water, and you didn't want to go anywhere near the beach after you'd been and seen this movie. But as you get a little bit, well, not older, because I saw it a couple of times in the week, and you get a bit more used to what you're going to go and see, the shocks, the jumps and all that were just, I mean, remember the boat, the shock in the boat. And my mother, I thought she fell off the seat. It was just unreal. This is the most I've ever been scared in a cinema. It's probably the most I've seen adults being scared in the cinema, and it's the most realistic I thought a movie was at that time for myself. As a young kid in 1975, I must have been about 6 or 7, and I think this is just, at one point I thought this is a bit too much for me. I don't know if I can get through this. But that's such a, I mean, these days you can't really go to cinema. I can't go to the cinema and be that petrified that I feel like running out. But with this one, I certainly did. And that's why it'll stick in my memory for as long as I can remember. And obviously, as soon as I watch that, I think about that, the day in the classic, the cinema, my mum screaming. I think about the fact of adults going crazy. I think about the fact of kids younger than me getting taken out of the cinema, crying their eyes out after the first 5 minutes, because I think some of the parents were thinking, I can't believe what this is like. So for me, this is the first official horror movie that I ever saw at the cinema. So at number 2, that's Jaws. So number 1 in my top 10 list of cinematic experiences is 1983's Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D. Now, that's the kicker, the 3D. This movie was unreal. This is the first, I think I saw a 3D movie before this and never really thought too much about it. I think it was kind of like like a kid's movie. This one here, when you went to go and see this with your friends, it was the best experience I've ever had with my friends. I think I saw this twice in the week. I should have went all week, but I don't know why I didn't. This might not have been able to afford it because it would have been quite pricey, having all that money in 1 week, maybe ending up to about £10. But yeah, so this just the special effects in here, the 3D, when it first came out, and the credits are coming out to the screen in 3D, it literally was like they were going past you. They were coming out that close to your face. I've never seen nothing like it since, actually. The 3D on here is the best 3D I've ever seen at a cinema. Now, these new ones, when they've got the real 3D and that, I mean, they do look good. But I don't know what it is, because obviously this movie's full of gags to do with 3D. It has somebody with a yo-yo, and it's going towards the camera, so the yo-yo is actually going towards your face. Had things where people were poles when they put the pole out. When the pole was going around, it was like on the end of your nose. And it was just such a laugh with your mates, because people getting their head squeezed and the eyeball popping out. Also, Jason, when he was shooting this harpoon, and he shot the harpoon at you and it just came straight out at you. It was great. And this is why I probably rate Part 3 so highly, because I had this amazing cinema experience a couple of times at the cinema. And when you went back, you're just thirsty for more. I think it was just, like I say, the 3D. I have seen other 3D movies. I've seen Jaws 3D, actually, which was awful. But the 3D was all right in it. But this one just leaped out at me, pun intended, about the fact that this 3D worked for me, and it was just great to put in a horror movie. And it's such a shame that sadly this movie experience probably won't be matched. So, thanks for watching, you take care, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.
It's good! It's good! It's good! It's good!